They called it a moral recalibration. 12 cities erased. 99 million lives extinguished in less than 7 minutes. The Galactic Federation didn't dignify it by calling it a war. There was no stirring declaration, no ultimatum, only a vote cast among creatures that spoke in pheromones and clicks, their scaled hides glinting under artificial constellations. A verdict was reached, unanimous. Humanity was unfit. Too aggressive. Too volatile. Too unpredictable. On every holofeed across the stars, the Valkyrie Hive's ambassador blinked all 4 of its black, glistening eyes and uttered the phrase that would become infamous. Regret is inefficient. Removal is final. By the time Earth's first cup of coffee was poured, it was already condemned. From low orbit, alien warships unleashed tungsten rods onto Washington, Beijing, Lahore, Sao Paulo, Lagos, New York, Karachi. There were no glowing plasma beams, no cinematic displays of destruction, just crushing, soundless strikes, as if the universe itself had drawn a heavy curtain across the planet. Then, silence. The galaxy waited for chaos. They expected rage, a nuclear frenzy, the desperate howl of a wounded species. But Earth didn't scream. It paused. For a whole day, nothing but static. And then, something stranger. Earth smiled. Not on screens. Not through speeches. Not from presidents or prime ministers. But in smaller ways. In Montana, a man brushed ash from his porch, poured black coffee, and muttered, "Guess they finally did it." In a Manhattan bunker, a teenage girl cracked open a deck of Uno cards, shuffled them once, and said, "Well, I guess there's no school tomorrow." And in Nevada, at an unmarked facility buried beneath sand and secrecy, a steel elevator hissed open. An old man stepped out, one eye gone, a cane in his hand, a chest of medals no one could remember awarding. The elevator didn't wait for instructions. It carried him 17 levels down, where a long oak table waited. 27 people sat there. No nameplates, no flags, just mugs of coffee and one sealed crimson folder. The old man limped to the head of the table. "So," he said, voice brittle and cold, "they killed 99 million of us." A few heads dipped. A woman poured bourbon into her tea. "Are the assets in place?" he asked. "Have been since '87, someone murmured. "And the contingencies?" Another nod. "Boogeyman protocol, greenlit." The old man sat, cracking his knuckles. "Then," he said softly, "I suppose we unleash the monsters." No smiles. No cheers. This wasn't revenge. It was housekeeping. Above Earth, the Federation congratulated itself. A triarch from the Zelvan Accord raised a glass of translucent liquor. Humanity, they declared, had been a spark waiting to ignite the curtains. Laughter rippled across alien tongues. To peace without predators, toasted a delegate of the Shrek. The Ardhack's envoy, a telepathic fungus suspended in a nutrient tank, pulsed violet light. "Prepare empathy teams," it advised silently. "The survivors will be emotional." "Yes, yes," another chirped. "Let them grieve. Grief will keep them docile." They didn't notice what Earth wasn't doing. No tearful broadcasts. No desperate petitions. No videos of screaming civilians. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that lingers in tombs and deep cellars. The Federation sent a survey drone to confirm the destruction. It returned, or tried to. What arrived wasn't data. It was a package, wrapped in human skin. Inside, one blinking eyeball. The drone pilot. The note attached, written in 7 galactic languages, said only, "You rang." 3 weeks later, the Council convened again, this time less confident. "Has Earth responded?" a Varkan admiral demanded. "No," said the Zorlani oracle, her silken robes shimmering. "No replies to any pings." "Have they retaliated?" A pause. "Not directly." "Meaning?" "We've lost 7 intelligence outposts. Sabotaged. Erased." The chamber fell still. The Zorlani oracle leaned forward, blind eyes unblinking. "There is movement," she whispered, "in their shadows. As if on cue, the lights dimmed. A door hissed open. A man walked in. No armor. No insignia. Just a plain black suit and a coffee-stained tie. He carried a briefcase in one hand, a paper cup in the other. No one stood. No one knew who he was. The council chairwoman's gills fluttered. "State your designation." The man took a slow sip of coffee. "You know," he said, "your people never did figure out how to make this right. Still tastes like battery acid and cough syrup." Her voice sharpened. "Your name?" He set the cup down. "Kane." "Rank?" Kane tilted his head. "You sterilized Earth. And now you're asking for ranks." Behind him, two towering alien guards shifted uneasily. Kane smiled faintly. "Relax. I'm not here to hurt you." He snapped open the briefcase. Every guard leveled their weapons. Kane raised one eyebrow. "Easy. It's just paperwork." From the case, he pulled a small box. Plain. Unlit. "What's in it?" a voice demanded. Kane's smile widened slightly. "Proof. And a question." The box clicked. A hologram bloomed above it, grainy satellite footage. 12 alien ship. Destroyed. Kane's voice was calm. "Last week. Zeta System. Patrol Squadron. No survivors." The chairwoman's eyes narrowed. "You're saying humans did this?" Kane took another sip. "I'm not saying anything. I'm just letting you know what's coming." A scaled admiral rose, tail lashing. "Are you threatening this council?" Kane turned his head slowly toward the creature, like one might watch a lizard climbing glass. "Threatening," he said softly. "Oh no. What you see here." He gestured at the hologram. "That's just a response. The threatening part," Kane said, eyes suddenly colder than vacuum, "comes later." Someone else spoke up. "How many of you are left?" Kane's smile vanished. "Enough." The word hung in the air like a loaded weapon. The Zorlani oracle leaned forward, voice barely a whisper. "What do you want, human?" Kane blinked once. Slowly. 99 million mothers, fathers, children. You don't get to ask what we want. He stood. You get to wonder what happens next. The guards stepped forward to block him. Kane didn't answer the guards. He didn't need to. He just stared, and one of them twitched, not a big movement, just the kind of involuntary flinch that told the whole story. Then he turned and walked out. No threats, no parting shot, just the soft sound of his shoes on polished floors, fading into silence. On Earth, far away, in a frozen stretch of Alaska, a man pushed open a cabin door and stepped into a wide-out blizzard. A duffel bag hung off one shoulder. No one followed him. No one ever did. In Tokyo, a woman knelt in a small apartment lit by paper lamp. She wore a pale kimono, delicate hands stitching a tiny crimson flower into the lining of her coat. Beside her, a pistol waited, each bullet etched with markings that weren't words but meant something all the same. As she worked, she hummed a lullaby. In Detroit, a priest bolted the doors of an old church. He moved carefully, reverently, before opening a trapdoor that led below. The basement wasn't filled with pews. Above all of it, in orbit, the Federation watched. They told themselves the humans were fractured, beaten, finished. But systems kept falling silent. In one sealed archive, a single line appeared in a classified report before being locked away. "They're not coming. They're already here." Somewhere over Sector 3V, in an observation post, a junior technician frowned at his screen. The long-range telescope had caught movement. Something small darting between the shattered bones of an old debris field. Too slow for a missile. Too fast for salvage. He magnified the image. A human figure. Black armor. Riding a stolen gravity sled. And in one hand a coin. "What the tech muttered. The human looked straight at the camera. Smiled. And flipped the coin. Deep below Earth, in the coldest room of its hidden command complex, the old man stirred. The one-eyed veteran. "Boogeymen have breached 7 systems," an aide reported quietly. "And Baba Yaga?" the old man rasped. "En route." He nodded. Any word from the council? They've requested a meeting. The old man gave a dry chuckle. Of course they have. He rose, his spine popping as he straightened. Then we'll give them one. The aide hesitated. Sir, what should we send as the message? The old man reached into his coat. When his hand came out, it held a small, battered metal tag. It read, "You shouldn't have touched our home." He tossed it onto the table. The sound it made was small, but it rang through the room like a funeral bell. Everyone went still. The hall of the Galactic Summit was built like a spiral shell of glass and light, suspended over Sarek Prime's blue skies. From orbit, it looked almost delicate, a seashell hanging in emptiness, hollow at its center. Inside, 97 delegates from 73 civilizations filled tiered seating, elbow to tentacle, claw to gill. And they all believed the same comforting lie. That it was over. The erasure of 99 million humans had been logged, broadcast, filed under necessary action. They'd even given it polite names. Planetary de-escalation. Moral recalibration. Now, they spoke of treaties and population management. Of how to guide Earth's survivors like nervous cattle. Some had even drafted a human rehabilitation charter. A Varkari noble with translucent skin tapped his crystalline fingers against the table. We must monitor their cultural emissions, he said. Their songs are unsettling. A member of the Hive Char, all eyes and chitin, turned 3 compound orbs toward him. They sing after death, it said flatly. That alone should trouble you. The golden-skinned Zelvan ambassador poured nectar into a shallow glass, smiling faintly. Let them sing. Let them write their poems. Their claws are clipped. Their teeth are broken. A low murmur of agreement rolled through the chamber. Words like extinction and closure drifted like perfumed smoke. And then, someone coughed. A human cough. Dry. Sharp. Every translator hiccuped, stuttered, recalibrated. Heads turned. And there he was. At the edge of the hall, framed by a glowing mural of galactic unity, stood a man. Alone. Unarmed. Black suit. White shirt. Slightly wrinkled. Hair that looked like he'd run a hand through it on the shuttle down and decided that was good enough. No rank insignia. No entourage. Just a cup of coffee in one hand and a scuffed leather satchel in the other. The Varkari delegate squinted, mandibles twitching. Is that Kane? Someone whispered. He wasn't on the guest list, hissed another. Kane walked into the chamber like he owned it, but like he couldn't be bothered to redecorate. Each step echoed wrong. Too soft for marble, but somehow louder. Delegates shifted. The Ardhack's envoy, a telepathic fungus in its nutrient tank, tried to pulse out a query, only for Kane to casually rest his coffee cup on the tank's rim without glancing at it. Hope this isn't a bad time, Kane said, his voice warm in all the wrong ways. By the way, the coffee downstairs? Still a tragedy. The chairwoman, a Turek noble with 6 murmuring mouths, rose. You are not cleared to be here. Kane smiled like the expression hurt him. You mean you didn't invite me? The silence spread like frostbite. You're alone, a voice from the Balthu Warcast muttered. Kane's gaze drifted lazily around the room. Am I? Eyes twitched. Scanners scanned. Nothing pinged. No weapons. No signals. Just a man. Standing where no man should be. The chairwoman clicked sharply. Your species is under sanction. You will be escorted. Sanctioned, Kane repeated slowly. That's a fancy word. Kind of like massacre, but with more syllables. Earth violated contact protocols. No, Kane's tone was quiet, but it cut. Earth sent a message. You erased it. He stopped walking. And you were warned what would happen if you ever touched our soil. The hall dimmed, not from the lights, but because the air itself seemed to thin. Kane looked directly at the chairwoman. And you didn't just touch our soil. His voice went soft. You sterilized it. Earth was a threat, someone muttered. Kane tilted his head slightly, as if curious. Was. The Ardhack's envoy burbled, confused by the sudden emotional current. State your purpose. Kane set his satchel on the dais. It hissed as it opened. From it, he drew an alien skull. Charred. Metal fused to bone. I think this belonged to a Sarnak admiral, he said conversationally. Found him floating in pieces near Jupiter's ring. Thought I'd return it. Gasp. A hiss. One faint shriek. Kane shrugged lightly. Lost and found. The Varkari noble stood sharply. Are you threatening us? Kane met his eyes at last. No, he said. I'm remembering you. His voice darkened. You killed 99 million of us. Teachers. Children. A grandmother who baked the best damn apple pie in Kansas. And you called it preemptive. We feared retaliation, someone stammered. Kane's expression turned to steel. Retaliation, he said, is personal. What's coming? His voice dropped to a whisper. Is policy. The Zelvan envoy rose, wings flaring, scales catching the light in sharp, offended shimmer. You can't seriously believe Earth has the strength for escalation, he said, voice dripping with disbelief. You're shattered. Broken. Kane tilted his head, almost amused. Funny thing about humans, he said, his tone shifting, just slightly, but enough for the air to tighten. We don't need armies. We have traditions. The Hive Char delegate's mandibles clicked. You mean, the Boogeymen? Kane took a long, slow sip of his coffee. Good to see the old bedtime stories are making the rounds. A nervous ripple of laughter passed through the chamber. Not real laughter. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Kane walked to the center of the chamber, where a holographic map floated, border systems, colonies, outposts, patrol routes all glowing in ghostly blue. He moved one finger, almost lazily, and the image shifted. 17 points lit red. Gone, Kane said flatly. The chairwoman's mouth stilled. In the last 9 days. Her eyes narrowed. By whom? Kane smiled faintly, just enough to feel like an insult. Let me ask you something. He tapped one of the red stars. Why is it your most secure stations, your elite installations, were infiltrated without a single alarm? Another tap. Why do your black boxes show nothing? No voices. No heat traces. No data, just empty space. Another. Why do the cameras always blink off 1 second before the screaming starts? The silence that followed wasn't soft, it was tight. Brittle. Kane leaned closer, voice low. You think we sent agents? Commandos? Fleets? He shook his head once. We sent one. He let the word hang there. One person. To each site. The Zorlani oracle whispered. Impossible. Kane's smile sharpened. Improbable, he corrected. But not impossible. That's your first mistake, assuming our limits are yours. The Ardhack's envoy trembled faintly in its nutrient tank. What are you? Kane took another sip of coffee, as if the question bored him. You want a label. A species. Something neat to blame. He gave a soft, almost kind chuckle. But the truth is, his eyes went flat. You already named us. His voice dropped, smooth and heavy, steel wrapped in velvet. You called us demons. The words carried a weight the walls themselves seemed to absorb. You said we were too volatile, too violent, that we smiled too easily, forgave too little, loved too fiercely, and that we grieved like wildfire. He nodded once, slowly. You were right. A long pause stretched thin. Then the chairwoman asked the only question that mattered. What do you want? Kane blinked once. His face didn't change. Nothing, he said softly. That's what makes it worse. He turned, walking toward the door. No guards moved. No one dared. Even the walls seemed to stop breathing. Just before the door hissed open, he paused. Oh, he said casually, reaching into his jacket. Almost forgot. He pulled something out. A small object. He tossed it over his shoulder. A coin. It spun through the air, ringing against the marble floor. It landed, tails up. Kane didn't look back. The chamber stared at it. A simple piece of metal. Ordinary. Harmless. Until someone leaned in and saw the engraving. It wasn't a currency stamp. It was a date. Tomorrow. 3 days after that coin hit the floor of the summit chamber, the stars started to go out. Not all at once. Not with fire or spectacle. Just absence. A refueling station over MyXX4 missed its routine check-in. A surveillance array in the Marne belt went offline. The Talvarian archive, keeper of 12,000 years of history, vanished, leaving nothing but a warped entry gate and a single smoldering boot print. A boot print that matched no known species. Commanders blamed interference. Diplomats called for calm. Analysts, behind locked doors, whispered one word. Boogeymen. It had always been a joke. A story humans told their children about phantoms in dark suits, ghost operatives who didn't exist. Nameless shadows with soft voices and old pistols. Now the shadows were real. They had faces. Names. Languages no alien could translate. No one had seen the Baba Yaga yet. But whispers of him spread anyway. And the galaxy had begun to believe he might be real. On the Korash line, General Jida of the Zelvan Accord stared at a tactical wall, wings twitching nervously. He'd been bred for war, forged on the Mechri front, weathered gas storms on Tenebris Prime. None of that prepared him for this. Explain, he snapped, voice sharp as glass. A young tech flinched. The Theta 7 outpost was sterilized. No breach detected. No alarms. No energy signatures. Jida's wings stiffened. How? The tech hesitated, throat tight. We found handwriting. On a console. Jida's eyes narrowed. Translate it. The tech swallowed. Held up the pad. 2 words. Too slow. At the edge of council space, 3 ambassadors boarded a luxury cruiser. They were guarded. Armed. Monitored. The vessel never arrived. 3 days later, it was found drifting around a dead moon. Engines cold. Lights dim. Inside. No blood. No signs of violence. Just a table set for dinner. 3 plates. 3 chairs. And 3 neatly folded suits, one atop each seat. A note sat in the center. We don't knock. Far below Greenland's ice, Kane stood before a cracked mirror in a bunker buried 20 clicks deep. He straightened his tie. Behind him, Agent June screwed a suppressor onto a matte black sidearm. She hummed softly, something old, something human. Baba Yaga ghosted 5 systems, she said casually. He left another tooth in a data core. No one's cracked it. Kane met her eyes in the reflection. It's not a puzzle, he murmured. It's a message. What does it say? Kane buttoned his coat. That he's bored. June snorted. Poor galaxy. Outside, snow drifted across the buried base like even the wind was trying not to be heard. On Atara 9, in a food market, the boogeyman known only as Ash appeared. No logs of arrival. No retinal trace. No scent markers. One moment, cameras showed mothers shopping. Children laughing. The next, everyone on the floor. Sleeping. Peaceful. The following frame. Ash looked into the camera. Smiling. Then nothing. The footage corrupted itself, deleting every backup. Until the next day when the cameras showed new footage. Not of Ash, but of the viewer, aboard a galactic supercarrier. Admiral Vun of the T-Rex Collective stared at the tactical map, flames reflecting off her scaled face. The map was nothing but red. Her fleet had been charting human shipping routes, quietly and carefully. Now her fleet was ash. The only thing recovered from the wreckage was a single distress beacon, looping one last message. The voice on the recording was unmistakably human, calm, polite, almost kind. We'd prefer to be left alone. We've extended our patience. You've used it all up. We're not sorry. We're efficient. Vun's claws dug into the console's frame until the alloy itself began to groan. Find them, she hissed. I want names. A junior officer swallowed. Ma'am, they don't leave names. He glanced down at the glowing console. They leave warnings. At the summit chamber, the council chairwoman stood before the gathered delegates, her claws clicking against one another as if she could grind her anxiety into dust. "We are being dismantled," she said. A few delegates blinked in confusion. "Not attacked," she clarified. "Dismantled." "This is retribution," muttered the Varkari ambassador, his mandibles shifting uneasily. "We brought this on ourselves." "No," the Zorlani oracle corrected, voice soft and far away, like she was speaking from beneath deep water. "Retribution implies feeling. This," she glanced toward the shadowed glass panels that ringed the chamber, "this is colder." "Then what is it?" someone demanded. The oracle's blind eyes turned toward the emptiness outside. "Balance." On the mining world of Threxel, perimeter guards spotted a lone figure on thermal scans. Humanoid. Barefoot. Walking calmly through the sub-zero desert toward the outer fence. Security drones were dispatched. 30 seconds later, every drone dropped out of the sky like stones. The figure strolled through the gate. No one stopped him. There was no one left to stop him. Inside the facility, the only sound was the receptionist's bell. It chimed. Over and over. Down corridors where no one would ever hear it again. Later, the footage would show the silhouette pausing at a vending machine, feeding in a coin, taking a pack of gum, and walking away. In a room without light, Kane sat at a table reviewing dossiers. Each file had a codename, an entry point, and a brief mission note. Some were surgical: erase a data vault, wipe a species' memory of Earth. Some were symbolic: appear in a public space, leave quietly. One mission held only 4 words: make the children cry. They remember best. Kane didn't blink. He simply added a new name to the top of the stack: Yaga. Next to it, he scrawled one note in his own hand: do not brief. Do not monitor. Just watch for smoke. In Altaria, the shining capital of the Artax Empire, a parade was planned to celebrate peace after the purge. The morning began with brass fanfares and bright banners, glittering drones spilling color through the air. By noon, the first bodies were found. By nightfall, the streets were empty. The parade floats still drifted through the city sky, lazily spinning. On one, a message scrawled in oil and blood: you should have knocked. The galaxy didn't understand how fast the unraveling was happening. 100 species had built the Federation, each proud of its specialty: clairvoyant minds, hive intelligence, impossible machines. But none of them had prepared for wrath bound by ritual. For vengeance delivered, not with fleet, but with etiquette. Earth had not screamed. It had whispered. And then it had moved. On the council moon, an emergency meeting was called. The great chamber was smaller now, not in walls or ceiling, but in weight. 23 seats were empty. One, the seat of the Balthu delegate, still dripped. Security sealed the doors. "We must open negotiations," the chairwoman said. A hiss of disbelief rolled through the remaining delegates. "They won't listen," someone spat. "They already sent us a message," another whispered. "We just didn't hear it." Then a voice crackled across the chamber speaker, thin, brittle, old. No one recognized the signature. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was human. "You left our skies full of ash. So we left yours full of questions." The chamber went still. The lights flickered. Someone laughed. Not a joke laugh. The laugh of someone who had just realized the bedtime stories were real. "Do you think," someone whispered, "Baba Yaga's watching us?" In the shadows of Earth's war room, Kane sipped his coffee. Leaning forward, he murmured, "No. He's already inside." The chamber was different now. Not physically. Its walls still gleamed, its ceiling still spun artificial stars. But those stars had changed. 17 systems, gone. 200 installations, erased. 1,000 more, dark. The Federation hadn't shattered. It had shrunk. It had cowered. The chairwoman stood at the front of the room, thinner now, her claws clasped like she was praying to something. The human diplomat has agreed to speak, she said quietly. He arrives alone. No one spoke. They didn't have to. Kane walked into the chamber as if nothing had changed. Same suit, wrinkled at the elbows. Same cheap paper cup in hand. Same strange stillness in his walk, like gravity hadn't decided what to do with him. But something in him was different. A deeper silence under the silence. A weight too heavy to be calm. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He simply placed a box on the floor. It wasn't large. It wasn't ornate. No locks. No hinges. The chairwoman's voice broke the stillness. We've requested terms of peace. Kane looked at the box. Then open it. She hesitated, eyes darting to the others. No one moved. Kane didn't blink. You killed 99 million of us, he said quietly, without asking what we would do. Now you ask what we want. That's rich. Her gills trembled. We underestimated the scale of your emotional resonance. Kane tilted his head. Is that what you call it now? We offer reparations, she said. Do you? Kane asked softly. He tapped the box. It opened. Inside ash. Fine. Gray. A whisper of bone dust. The room chilled. This was a child, Kane said. His voice wasn't louder, but it was heavier. Her name was Eva. She was 8. She wanted to grow up and design playgrounds on Mars. He let the words hang. She, he said, his tone flat, was also one of 99 million. So I brought you one. Delegates turned away. The Oracle closed her second set of eyes. Even the Arthax's glow dimmed to black. Kane reached into the box once more. When his hand came out, it held another coin, identical to the ones before. But this time, he didn't flick it across the room. He walked it to the holographic map at the center of the council chamber and placed it delicately on the glowing projection of the galaxy. The coin spun once, tipped, and stopped, resting on a world none of the gathered delegates recognized. The chairwoman's voice was almost a whisper. What is that? Kane's gaze stayed fixed on the coin. System 87K, he said. An abandoned mining colony. You'll give us that. Her gills fluttered. You want a planet? Kane turned his head slowly, deliberately. We want 50. The room erupted. Murmurs, outrage, disbelieving gasp. Kane didn't raise his voice. You sterilized 12 of ours. You owe us sanctuary. Not as refugees. Not under supervision. As owners. The Varkari noble snapped, crystalline fingers striking the table. 50 systems is unthinkable. That violates every. Kane lifted one finger. Every communicator in the chamber drowned in static. The lights dimmed, flickered once. Twice. Kane tilted his head, as if listening to something only he could hear. When his eyes returned to the room, they were made of stone. You don't get to say impossible, he said softly. Not anymore. The chairwoman cleared her throat, her voice trembling. These terms are extreme. Kane nodded once. Yes. Like what you did. The silence after that was heavy, pressing down like gravity. Kane moved slowly around the table, his steps measured, patient. You want peace, he said. But you're not sorry. You're just scared. He tapped the coin. A projection unfolded in the air, grainy footage, time-stamped. Ships erupting into fire. Worlds dimming into darkness. Elite alien assassins falling, one by one, each to a single human. Audio logs. Broken transmissions. And woven through it all, a single sound. A human heartbeat. Slow. Steady. Unrelenting. The Zorlani Oracle leaned forward, her voice a shiver. Are these your Boogeymen? Kane didn't answer. Because another voice did. A low, rumbling voice. Gravel run through velvet. Some of them. From the far doors, a man walked in. Tall. Unshaven. His coat long, dark, and heavy, dragging faintly on the polished floor. And behind him, dragged like a shadow. He moved with a silence that needed no training. It wasn't practiced. It was born in him. No nameplate. No introduction. No file, no rank. But the instant they saw him, every being in the room knew. Baba Yaga. The myth. The monster parents whisper to their children to make them sleep. He carried no weapon. He didn't need one. Blood stained the soles of his boots. One ambassador gasped. Another half rose to run. Baba Yaga lifted his head and the room turned to ice. He spoke once. 3 words. Treaty of Ashes. Kane gave a faint nod, as if confirming something they had all feared. That's what we're calling it, he said evenly. You'll sign it. The chairwoman's mouths fumbled for words. And if we don't? Kane didn't answer. He looked to the man beside him. Baba Yaga smiled. It was the kind of smile stone crypts would remember. The kind of smile that made air feel colder. Kane turned back to the council. Then, he said quietly, we stop being polite. A pause. Then movement. Delegates huddled, whispering like smoke curling under a locked door. 30 seconds later, the majority had agreed, not from belief, from fear. The oracle raised a trembling hand. We will sign. Kane watched her. Good. He reached into his coat, pulled out a thin tablet. It activated with a single touch, the words glowing blood-red. 50 systems. No surveillance. No taxation. Total withdrawal from Soul Sector. Recognition of Earth as a sovereign, neutral power. ****. And one final line, carved deeper than the rest. No memory of the Boogeymen shall be recorded. No record. No pursuit. No retaliation. Ever. ****. The treaty was signed. Quietly. Bloodlessly. But not without weight. And just like that, the galaxy bent. Not to fleets. Not to fire. But to the quiet hand. Humans took what they wanted. Not vengeance. Not glory. Space. Silence. Respect. The kind born only of fear. ****. The chamber began to empty, delegates stumbling out, their nerves in tatters, their pride disinfected. But Kane stayed. He faced the chairwoman one last time. You should know something, he said. She didn't look up. He waited. Until she did. This wasn't revenge, Kane told her. Her voice was barely a breath. Then, what was it? Kane leaned in, voice low enough to feel like a secret. This was just Earth reminding the galaxy. He paused. What happens when you open the wrong door? Behind him, Baba Yaga turned, his coat trailing behind him like the curtain at the end of a play. Kane followed. But before he stepped through the exit, he reached into his coat one last time. A flick of his wrist. Something clattered to the floor. The coin. It landed flat. This time, it didn't show heads. It didn't show tails. It showed a face. A child's face. Smiling. Burned. And beneath it, etched deep, the words no one dared speak aloud. You started it. We just finished saying hello.